Recording has started with the second annual PWPP.
Gland says that they are interested in the note-taking info, whether the other guy shows or not.
He'll watch the recording, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Annual, no, not really. This is the third study group I've done for TCM material, but I don't know if I would ever repeat the same material again. I tend to just stick with what I'm working on. But I think for me, next after the PWP is probably the BSCP. And then, I don't know, I might be done with search for a while after that. We'll see.
BSCP? Oh, the burp
Burp
suite.
suite, yeah.
Man, dude, that's right. I remember us talking about that last week. I would love to get that certification. That might be a couple years off for me just because I'm so focused on like internals and externals and stuff.
Yeah, it's in the plan.
That's a career goal for sure. Well, hey, what's up, everyone? We will do the normal stuff. My name's Ange. I work for TCM Security, one of the penetration testers there. We are running kind of a casual stream where we're going to try not to use curse words. This is the second week, so if you were here last week, what we were suggesting, if you want to keep up with Sean and I, are to do the first 4 sections. We laid out kind of like a plan for 7 weeks. We'll be doing this for 7 weeks. And so section 1 through 4, I personally have most of those done. We have a really busy week here at TCM. So I'm most of the way done. I can toss in the link to the GitHub here. And we have the next batch finished up. So I personally study well like this. I'm definitely looking for feedback. So if you guys actually follow this stuff along, where you're going through and you're like, cool, I'm going to do this deep dive of web app basics. If you find something better than what you have in here, please just like DM me on the side and I'll update it. This week, what I'm going to be working on and kind of the pace that Sean is keeping to as well is section 5 through 8. So we've got SQL injection. There's some good fun stuff here. Of course, this top part is actually what's in the TCM course. So it's the Portswigger labs. Everything down here is optional, but if you're an over planner like Sean and I are, stuff like this is really helpful. So I've got a good cadence of creating these study plans now. Most of the stuff I'm finding is free, which is super cool. And then there's also some study notes. So I have to do 3 more of these for the sections this week. But there's at least 10 questions on every single subtopic. So if you guys are like, flashcard people, there's some good stuff here too. So I'll hand things over to Beef so he can do introductions and then just sort of like take things in. If you guys have any questions while we're going, just raise your hands and things like that. This is, again, it'll be on YouTube, but very, very casual.
I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit ahead on the study plan.
Yeah.
And I finished the NoSQL. I didn't go through the GitHub stuff yet, but I will. But I finished the NoSQL Portswigger lab today. Man, it was fun, but it was kind of a dick. It was challenging. Definitely good times for all those Portswigger labs.
Yep. Yeah, I think those are great. And then I'm actually having some pretty good luck finding like broken access control. There's some labs that people have made that look pretty cool. So I'm tossing these on there as well for anyone that wants some extra work if you're just really struggling with like getting that knowledge in. So if anyone does these all the way through and you guys have a feedback on that, if it worked well, if it didn't, if something's crap, just like let me know. I'll take it off the study plan.
Before I go into anything on note taking, any questions, comments, requests, concerns? I will take it as silence means no. So I am Sean. I do, we'll call it web app security for the government. Mostly do web app pen testing, but a little bit of like DevSecOps type stuff. So, By request, we had asked last week what people were struggling with and what they were looking for in a study group, and really not a lot of people chimed in. Note taking was one of them, so I put together a small presentation. I made a PowerPoint. PowerPoint's not really my jam, but I figure instead of just having me sitting up here yapping the whole time, I'll do a quick little demonstration. So let me just make sure that I can actually share this. We'll go live. Do we have my pretty PowerPoint?
Wow.
It's pretty, isn't it?
Oh, nice.
Okay, so it'll be geared a little bit towards someone who doesn't know anything about note taking or is just, kind of getting started with these courses. If you know a lot about, if you have a good set of notes put together, if you know what note app you use, or if you have an idea of some techniques that work for you, well, my advice here is free. You're getting what you're paying for. So, take what you like, leave what you don't. I'm going to talk about some note-taking apps, and I didn't want to get into, there's quite a few. I didn't want to get into anything I don't know about and anything I haven't used. So I'm going to talk about later on OneNote and Obsidian. I started out note-taking with OneNote. A couple years into things, I transitioned into Obsidian. I prefer that more now. Both are good, but we'll get into that later. So just a quick overview. We're going to talk about the importance of note-taking, some different note-taking methods, digital versus traditional, and by traditional, I mean written notes. Some of you might say, why are we talking about written notes? Well, there's a little bit of a science to it. I'm not an expert on it, but I've experienced actually writing down notes versus typing things out. And I will say I do feel like I retain things better writing them down. So if if I'm at a lecture or something like that, if you're watching videos, writing down might be quicker. But it also, and then you could always go back and type them out later, but it might be something that you want to consider just based on the fact that there's a lot of science that shows writing things down. If it's a concept you're struggling to grasp a little bit, writing things down might be the way to go to actually help you remember it for later on. We'll talk about tools briefly and a suggestion for some note templates for Obsidian, and then just some strategies for taking notes, revising your notes. Any questions so far? It's hard for me to see the chat. Just a little Obsidian Notion depends on, yeah. So the importance of note taking. Most of this kind of goes without saying, but when we're consuming content, you could be watching TV, you could be scrolling on your phone. It's it's just kind of mindless. When you're actually actively engaging with the material, there's a chance you're going to retain it better. Now, the other thing for note taking is when you're going up for an exam, like one of these TCM exams, or when you're either, if you're in the field now, you're probably already taking notes if quite a bit if you're in the field now. But when you are working on a web app, you are going to be referencing your notes heavily. You're not going to remember every single technology you've ever seen. You probably remember, hey, I think I have some notes on that. That's going to be helpful, but you're kind of like building this index for your entire career ahead of you. So they're going to grow, they're going to get large, but it's I think it's really the only way you're going to retain all that. I don't know a single pen tester that doesn't reference their notes or Google or, a little bit of AI or whatever. It's just inevitable.
Yeah, I will say, on the PNPT, I mean, I failed it the first time around for sure, but my notes were incredibly necessary. Even things like documenting when Heath was talking about a certain attack, like what video that was in.
Yeah.
or
Yep.
like talking about like certain situations that really stood out in my mind. And like from working at TCM on the help desk, like reminder, like you can use the videos while you're taking any of the TCM exams. There's nothing in the rules against going back over the TCM courses.
And I'm sure you can relate to this. You will be on an assessment and you'll see something and you'll be like, wait a minute, I have notes on that. I've seen that before. So
Oh yeah.
super helpful. It's important when you're taking notes, maybe not directly at the time always, but organization of your notes is very important. If you're going to be able to reference them later on in an effective way, you're going to have to come up with some kind of a solution that works to you. I'm actually even going to share some of my notebook later on, but the way you organize notes, categorize things, make it searchable, have things linked together, that can turn, a very difficult situation into taking some of that stress off of you and the time. And then, it also, this kind of goes without saying, but when we're taking notes, we're learning, we are able to take things, have them in our digital notes or our paper, go over them again, think about them, re-summarize things so that we can reference it later more easily. So this is where we're going to get into the writing. I kind of picked one method, the Cornell method. There's others out there, use what you like, but this is something that works for me when I'm actually physically writing notes. So you're dividing your paper into sections. Your notes is, your quick, trying to keep up with the conversation, trying to keep up with the video, trying to grab things from the reading. Your cues are, how you're making sense and linking your notes, challenging ideas, maybe writing down topics that you don't fully understand or vocabulary that you don't understand. That's where you're kind of like working through things later on. And then your summary is for easy reference later on. When we're getting into digital notes, I prefer something like the outline method, and I'll share my notebook later on. It's important to organize things in different topics, subtopics, and then different points on each subject. If you just had, if you made an Obsidian notebook or a OneNote notebook or a Notion or whatever, and it was just one page of a mess, a blob of notes, good luck finding anything in that later on. This is also, mind mapping is a different concept, but I think it applies to Obsidian more specifically than anything in the context that I'm talking about today. It's kind of linking your notes together in a flow so that, for example, you're on a pen test. I have remote code execution here. What can I do next without searching day and night through my notes? If you have them linked or mapped ahead of time, and I'll demonstrate that a little bit later on, it's going to make things a lot easier. It takes more time to create, obviously, but I think it's worth it in the long run. I've already talked about this a little bit, but the obvious advantage of digital note taking, digital note keeping, you can edit it easily. You're not erasing, crossing things out on paper. It's easier to organize, search, easier to share with people. And of course, on an engagement, when you're doing training material, you want maybe a video linked, or of course, you want plenty of screenshots. You can't really do that with pen and paper. You could try. Get a Polaroid, I guess. Now, the biggest benefit of pen and paper we're going to talk about is, well, I've already talked about a little bit, but just that memory retention. I don't know what it is. I'm not smart enough to understand probably half the studies on it, but there's study after study. If you are struggling with remembering your material or grasping a concept, learning something new, give it a try. You can always copy it over to your digital notebook later on. Like I said earlier, I'm only going to talk about note-taking apps that I really know. There are plenty out there. Do your research. I'm sure everybody in this study group right now probably has their favorite. Ange, I don't know what you use. I know you told me one time you kind of like OneNote, but I don't know if that's still the case.
I do. Yeah, we use OneNote, and then like I find best that as a group, like ClickUp works pretty well. So like a friend, like a group of friends and I share like a ClickUp thing. So there's some good options there too if you're like kind of collaborating.
Yeah, we mostly use OneNote at the VA, and I made them approve Obsidian for me so I could get it installed. Just like, I don't know. OneNote, I think personally it's more beginner friendly. If you're a Windows user, like most beginners probably are. I won't say most people in the study group, but I don't know the numbers anymore, but I think it was something like 70% or something of PC users, maybe even higher than that, are some type of a Windows user. If that's the case, it's already there. I think it's a little bit more beginner friendly just because, you know, you're not messing around with where your storage is pointed and really installing anything. If you have, you know, Windows 11 or whatever, it's already there. Another advantage OneNote has, if you like, what is it, like the stylus pad or the touchpad, you can actually draw in OneNote. So you could kind of integrate your, you know, that kind of mimic that. I don't know if it would really work, but mimic the that brain power of writing your notes out in for some, and then, you know, maybe type them out later or whatever. But you could do that all right in OneNote. You wouldn't have to carry around notebooks and papers and pens. Personally, so I think the default, and I think it's still the case, the default OneNote really doesn't have any code block support. There is an add-on. I think it might be called One More, but I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But even when you do have that plugin that adds code blocks to OneNote, it's just not the same. I don't know. And then, you know, the storage, if you use OneDrive already, it's easy. It's backed up. You can kind of forget about it. You don't have to worry about, like with Obsidian. If you use Obsidian on Windows, you have to worry about excluding the folder and Defender so it doesn't nuke your notes all the time, thinking there's a bunch of payloads in there. I personally like Markdown. I don't know if that's really a selling point, but I included it because I like it. The graph view is another I just like for linking your notes. I don't think, all in all, in the end, I don't think there is a one way to go or a huge difference, unless you plan on getting super creative. But those are just my opinions. If you're a beginner, I don't know, you know, the level of the person that had really requested this presentation, but if you're a beginner, OneNote is fine. It's easy, pick it up, go. And if you change your mind later on, there's some plugins that can help you import your notes from OneNote to something else.
Yeah, I will say, like we were talking about, I don't know any pen testers that don't look at their notes all the time or like Google stuff. I actually don't know any single pen tester that has like committed and stayed to one note taking app. Like,
Yeah.
just throw a dart at a board and just kind of choose one, right?
So I had just ported my notes over to, not just, but I don't even know how long it's been now, 8 months or so, ported my notes over to Obsidian. And I'm still not done linking everything the way I want it and organizing everything the way I want it. And I was like a couple weeks ago thinking like maybe I should check out Notion and see what. It's like no, stop.
Stop.
You're
Just
killing
learn the
yourself.
stuff.
Yeah. This is something I threw in here because two friends of mine are the masterminds behind it. If you use Obsidian and you'd like something to take, I don't really go too crazy with the customization and the plugins and stuff. But if you want more, they have a template on their GitHub. Check it out. Rob and Raphael Pimentel. I won't go too deep into this right now, but it can kind of help you. They have like a templating setup where it can help organize your notes. They do some lessons on note taking, which I think kind of mimics a lot of, what I'm already saying here today, but if you want more, check it out. Thank you for the link. I did not prepare that.
I will say, especially when like you're talking about that last slide
Okay,
there, Sean, like
I tried to keep this to what I would want a couple years ago when I was first starting out with these TCM courses and using video courses. This is what I do to help take notes during the videos. This is not the be all end all. This is just a suggestion. Usually what I do, unless there's a challenge in the video that I want to try before Alex or Heath or whoever goes over it, I just watch the whole video first. I do nothing else. Watch, pay attention, absorb. I'll usually watch it through a second time, and that's when I'm pausing or slowing the video down, and that's when I'm taking all my notes. It's usually not verbatim. If there's any, links they recommend during the videos they go check out, that's usually the time when I'm watching through the second time and I'm pausing and I'm going through slowly. That's when I'll usually, go off and explore any other resources, add them to my notes. And then while I'm practicing whatever challenge may be, in this case, for this course, there's a lot of port swigger labs. Each and every single port swigger lab, I'm keeping it separate, its own set of notes. And I'm kind of treating each one like a little small pen test and getting in the habit of, or keeping the habit of telling that story of what's going on while I'm doing it from beginning to end. So that way, if we were doing this for a assessment or a certification, we have a nice kind of chronological play of events. We're going to need that for, transferring over to Word or whatever we're using for our report. We'll have all our screenshots there. Always take an abundance of screenshots. You'll never know, when you might need more for your report. They definitely, I can say as a hint for TCM exams, they do like a lot of screenshots so that it's very clear what you did, what you were able to exploit. Ange could probably speak to this better than me, but I'm sure plenty of people have probably failed because there just wasn't enough evidence of what went on in their reports. But we'll do reporting for another day also.
Yeah, we have had to fail people.
And then just some, wanted to stress the importance of constantly revisiting your notes. There's some studies I'm probably going to butcher some of the outcomes of these studies, but as strategies to help you retain material, it is you take your notes for your course content, maybe set some kind of a reminder up or set something up on your calendar to revisit a week from then, and then a couple weeks from then, and then a month from then. Constantly revisiting things are going to enhance your retention. You're constantly going to be adding to your notes. You might be adding new payloads, new techniques. You'll do a different course, learn something new. So your notes should never be something that you just kind of, make and forget. You should be mindfully revisiting them often, revising them often. That's all we have. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Do we actually have a question? The method of taking notes while going through some of the Hack the Box training. Actually, yeah, I can actually share some of that too. I did plan on sharing some of my notebook just for clarity of kind of how I organize things. So let me just find somewhere in my notebook that I can share and have it make sense. Let's see, I was just going through SQL injections today, so I'm going to share my screen again. Let's see. Okay, so this is kind of a peek into the way I take notes. So we have my web app section here. I kind of keep things organized into folders based on stage of a pen test. It's not a perfect science, but then within each one, my web app section is by far the biggest one, just because it's what I do the most. But to your question about the hack the box training material, so usually I often cheat a lot, and you'll see this is probably copied straight from the coursework. Now this is overkill. This is overkill. I hope I don't get in trouble for sharing it because this is hack the box course material. But what I do later on is I get. Let me find one that has. So when I do the challenges at the end, this one might not have it because these are ones I'm still copying over. These ones will definitely have it. So you can see I went through the TCM bug bounty. That lab was pretty easy, but I'll make sure I keep good notes on the skill assessment at the end for easy reference. And then I try to build a cheat sheet for each section. I don't know if I have a good one here. So these are what we're referencing later on. So even if you have an abundance of notes like me, I try to keep everything to where I can have a cheat sheet build out, and I can always add to it later on. I end up adding to things later on. Some of them are probably larger than this, but also what I try to do is keep my notes linked together. You'll see I probably haven't done a great job of it yet because it's something I'm still in the process of, but where is the graph view? So you can see where these are how things are kind of linked together. So this was actually a web app checklist I started to make. This one was related, but it's a checklist for walking through a web app, and you can see each section is kind of linked to, so where I can just kind of click it and get to a cheat sheet that I might need for each subject. So it's still a work in progress, and it probably always will be. But yeah, I kind of keep. Let me see if I can keep up with the questions. Yeah, 1 volt really, and then I don't separate things out. The only way I separate things out is I have web app, pen testing process. Enumeration is with Nmap is kind of like its own section, Nmap or whatever else you use. What's that, Rust scan or whatever you like using. Footprinting is its own section, but then there's so much involved. It kind of like walks through the stages of the pen test, and this isn't complete. There's plenty more sections coming, but that's how I do it. I don't know if that might be useful to some beginners, but
Yeah, I always kind of looked at
yeah, it kind of does look like the Death Star. That's why.
Okay. You can hear me okay, right?
Ping, I don't think we can help you, buddy. Yeah, my notes are a work in progress, but it's been a work in progress for a while. I keep adding material to it, so one day I'll stop adding for a while and actually get the organization that I want going, but that's my problems. No, we cannot hear you.
No. Someone said thumbs up.
I think we lost you, Ange.
Ooh, Coal World can. I think it's you.
Wait, who can hear Ange? Because I can't. Oh no. Well, I don't know what to do about that. I didn't mute you. Well, if she's talking, she's probably yelling at me the whole time while I was blabbing on, and I didn't hear a word of it, so sorry.
It's going to be a really funny YouTube. He can't hear me, but I will
Before
leave and
we
come
end
back.
up convening for the night, though, is any questions for me? I'll shut up for a little bit in case Ange is talking and I'm talking over her. I don't want to leave because
Testing. No, y'all, I think he can't hear
that's
me.
funny because when you're talking, I can see the audio jumping in Obsidian or not Obsidian, OBS.
That's hilarious. Well, let me since he can see I'm talking, I'm gonna go ahead and share a couple things real quick. So, one, along with all this note taking, don't skip, and I harp on this with people that I'm mentoring. Don't skip on figuring out how you learn best. So I'm gonna share a really shisty website that's just like kind of somewhat junk. You can find 1,000 of these online. But if you're struggling to learn, you might be doing something that you're just working against your.
I was blabbing. I didn't hear a word of it. Well,
I texted you on the side and I was like, "Can you hear me?"
5 minutes ago, yeah. Nope, I could not.
Nope, not at all.
But
While you were out, I was just encouraging people to figure out how they learn best too. Part of taking notes is like part of how you're like ingesting the information, right? And so for me, I'm what's called multimodal, so I need to do it and see it. But I need to really do the thing. So I was sitting with Jason today, who's the one of the really good web app pen testers here at TCM, and we were just going through some of the attacks. I'm working on a pen test, and I was like, this is what I need. Even kind of the short throw, like, this is a Portswigger lab, do it. It takes 15 minutes or whatever. Even that somehow it just the rhythm of getting in these attacks is still somewhat missed on me a little bit. So today was a really good day for me because it was like I was sitting there for an hour trying to do just like a singular attack on this web app. So don't be afraid to do these labs a couple times too, I think is really the point there.
I don't think that's not normal, though.
I think it's completely normal.
Your boy
Yeah,
Jason's
absolutely.
probably just a wizard, but uh, yeah, I think that's pretty normal. It never works the way you want it to.
Yeah. Let me tell y'all, I mean, I failed the PNPT the first time and it was like kind of felt great that I had just pushed the play button, right? So I kind of led forward with that. And when I started working for TCM a little bit after that, I remember talking with I think it was Heath and just kind of being like him saying like, yeah, no, we saw you fail it publicly. Thought it was really cool. So, just as a heads up, like, it's just badass that you guys are giving this a go, right? Yeah, Cyberfrog, you right.
I concur.
I love your notes, Beef. I think that especially when it comes to like the PWPP, looking at the way that you're kind of doing things and actually notating the specific either commands or attacks, like literally where you can just copy and paste into a web app is gold. Like
Oh,
that's like
you know what I
that.
wanted to share if we have time. Why don't we have time? Of course we have time.
We have time.
Um, I wanted to share how I go through some of the Portswigger. I can find it in my notebook. Um, how I kind of just treat them like little assessments, but let me pick a good one that's not like super. Some of them are like really easy and you're done with it in 3 seconds, but
Yeah.
Let me pick a good
Yeah,
one.
and we're gonna do a reporting night that's coming up. So actually beef, it'd be cool is to just like treat it like a miniature assessment, and maybe we just like choose a company that has a bug bounty program and
Yeah,
just like make an make a report in front of people. That might be cool.
yeah. I can absolutely do that. I guess I'll share this one. It's one of the longer Fort Trigger Labs, just for anybody who, maybe everybody here is a badass web app pen test guru, but for the people that were asking about, how the hell do I take notes? I don't know what I'm doing. Let's see, let me make this bigger. So this is the blind SQL injection with conditional responses. I have all my Foursquare labs just like kind of organized in categories, but just so this is the what I copied from the lab itself, kind of telling you what you need to do. And then I just kind of like write it like I would be doing a pen test. What did I find interesting? Sometimes I'm writing things I don't find too interesting. But it gets lost as I go on. But I start with payloads. I'm kind of just telling a story about what's going on, what I'm successful with, what I'm not successful with. But I just treat it like a pen test the entire way.
Yeah.
I made a bash list. It wasn't enough. I even put in the bash script for the word list that I ended up with, and then I'm typing out my password here. Like I just treat it like even the stuff that doesn't work, I leave it included because then I can go back and kind of like see the thought process behind what I was doing. Nothing too
Um,
fancy, but I do that for every single Porch Figure lab.
that's a great idea. Yeah, the for reporting purposes, I think
Mm-hmm.
the key like word there that you said is telling a story. And in note taking, I'm with you there. I'm always trying to like ensure that like I'm putting that why there, or like, you know, why am I trying it this way, or like, you know, what's the goal there? Just so that I'm getting those reps in too, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like, and especially with the PWPP, you're making a report that is supposed to like you're supposed to be pretending that you're kind of talking to a client on the other side. Right. So, if you get into that habit early of like taking notes conversationally, where you actually can kind of like see the thought process, see the work as it happens, it really helps.
Yep. And for anybody watching this, please, I'm not pretending to be a guru on note taking. Um,
Yeah.
my note taking changes, it evolves as time goes on. Yours will too.
Yeah.
But these are maybe some tips for someone just starting out and has really no idea what to do. I
Yeah.
I'm gonna embarrassingly admit that when I first started, like, Try Hack Me was my first exposure to any kind of like hacking or offensive security, a few years ago. And I literally was taking my first notes on like Notepad in Windows. So
Yeah.
I've come a long way.
Uh, for me, OneNote was like a means to an end, but it has stayed there in a certain place. Like I keep very basic notes in OneNote when I'm doing so someone had that question earlier about like what vaults. I kind of do things a little bit differently. My junk work, like the work where I'm just like I'm doing this lab, I want to remember it later, that's actually the stuff that goes into OneNote. So that's how I'm separating things out. Um when I'm doing something that I know I'm going to refer to later, it's almost like a it's almost like a hack tricks style wiki is what I'm doing personally on my side.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's someone that I would also like if you all I don't want to assume that we have any specific level here or that we don't. But hack tricks is like my premier like I think that the group or the guy that puts that together is just like exactly how my brain works.
Yeah.
So, sometimes it's just like imitating somebody you think it does it really well, right?
Yeah. The Swiss Sky repo is also great.
Yeah.
Um, AppSec Explain is pretty damn good too, if I can give Alex a plug.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
But those are all referenced in the course. So if you're taking the
Yeah.
course, you should pick up on that.
I'm gonna share my screen again just to go back over this week coming up. So if you hopped in a little bit late, you've still got time to catch up. This is only the second week. So if y'all want to keep pace with us, which is not necessary, but if you want to, um, Beef and I will probably be taking the PWPP within about 5 to 6 weeks or so. Maybe he and I might be taking it a little bit before that. But we went through the first 4 sections this last week. And then this week, if you want to keep pace, just check out these last 4 sections. And some of these, like you'll look at this one and you're like, this is an intimidating amount of work. But some of these, especially when we're getting down to like cross-site scripting, it's not a bunch of extra work. So these are the components that are necessary for the TCM course. And then if you want extra work, it's kind of this bottom stuff. So so just kind of to kind of explain where we are in the process there. And if you have any questions while this stuff is going on, while the sessions are going on, um, Sean does web app pen testing in his personal life. And then we actually have a bunch of people in the server that have passed the PWPP and do this type of thing. So y'all don't hesitate to actually like ask questions as you're learning if you have any like concerns. Um, this is I mean, me to you guys, like this is you get out what you put into it, right? So if you there's no stupid questions is what I'm trying to say.
Um, Ping just shared something good because I don't think that's ever covered in any of these TCM courses, but the hack tools extension is great for quick payloads. And if you like me, don't use it as a little browser extension for a few months before you figure out that you can open it up in full screen in its own tab.
Yeah, there's a bunch of cool little things like this. Actually, we probably just put this in the Discord channel itself because like that is a really good find.
It's so great for grabbing the bones of like a SQL injection or a cross-site scripting payload, and just just for quick testing.
There we go. All right, you guys. How's everyone feeling? Are you guys like where are we at level wise? Like is anyone just getting started on this stuff? Um is there anyone here that like, we can kind of point if there's any like mentoring type questions for web apps in the audience? Wait for a second.
I have a question.
Go
What's
do
a
it.
web app?
Man, heck if I know.
That could be a philosophical question.
It really could be.
What is a web app?
Well, it should start with, is this a simulation? That's probably where the question should begin.
I'm kind of leaning towards yes on that one.
Maybe. Yeah. Seriously.
Like 51%. You're like, no, I'm not super leaning that way.
Right. Oh, we got a WGU homie in the house.
Hey, I'm a WGU alumni.
That's right. Yeah. Do you think so? If this type of thing really like works for people and you guys like if you get a lot out of this, I know Sean and I have talked a lot about how to give back and how to continue doing things like this. So seriously, feedback is super helpful if we're putting a bunch of time and energy into something that's not benefiting anyone, just, ain't no reason for that.
Yeah, and if you're watching the video later on, because I didn't screw up the video this time, hopefully, ask your question in the Discord. I'll get back to you within 3 to 5 business days.
For a fee of $19.99. Just kidding. All this is free. I mean, you could use if you want to pay Sean back for some of his time, you can use his code, but that's besides the point.
I mean,
Um,
I didn't even know I had a code. Well, I mean, I didn't know about the code. You kind of helped me with getting a code.
help
I didn't even think
help
about
you.
it.
I put your email address into the application for you. I think it's like a whole step past help at this point.
PNPT was fun.
It was
Don't
fun.
overthink it. Um, man, you got to be thorough in your enumeration, obviously, as with all things, but don't forget to look in the obvious places too. That's the only thing I remember from that exam.
And if something's not obvious, like if something's obvious and you feel like you're on the right path and you're just not getting what you want from the response, don't forget to try different tools. Sometimes different tools are all that you need. You've got the right data, you've got the right stuff. You're just,
Yeah,
you know, that type of thing.
that was a fun one though. I always wish I could go back and do those exams again to like see what else I could do or if there's anything I missed.
Don't you have a second? You just do the second take.
Like, can you really do that?
I have no idea. I'm just actually pulling that right out of
In that theory, I have a retake for the PJPT and the PNPT and the
yeah.
PWPA.
One of the gentlemen that works for the TCM help desk right now, he hit the PJPT so hard that he was like discovering stuff that like other people didn't. And it was for me, I was super impressed, but that was like one of my most favorite things to see. Found things
Um,
that we had to end up cleaning up. We'll just put it that way.
yeah, I didn't. I probably didn't go that hard on that one because I was so nervous. That was my first cert like that. I was so nervous.
Yeah.
Once I got the domain controller, I was like, I'm done. The adrenaline could finally wear off. I could stop shaking.
I think I can't remember if it was you or if it was someone else that I was like, don't forget screenshots all the way up. You need a screenshot
Yeah.
for all of it. Do not forget that you even need, don't, celebrate, but like don't forget there at the end you still need screenshots.
Don't if you finish the exam early, don't end your exam environment.
Oh, yeah. No, take that time. Yeah.
Yeah, you might be like, oh shit, I forgot
Yeah.
something. And a screenshot.
Slow roll the reporting at that point, for sure.
Was Ping at my debrief? I had a screenshot of
I
my debrief and I don't know where it went.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there were how many of us showed up for
There
your
was a lot of
debrief? I think
people
it
in
was
my
like
debrief. It was like
yeah,
17 people or something like that. It was wild. That was a good
that's right.
time.
Yeah. You were like shocked,
I was
which
like,
was hilarious.
what is happening right now?
Yeah, as someone who's your friend, it was one of the funniest things I've seen.
I'm like,
Um,
this will be easy. I'm going into a debrief with I forget who even was doing my debrief. But I was like, oh
Annabelle
yeah.
or something?
I
Yeah.
was like, I'll just go in. This is easy. I'm talking to one person. And all those people start coming in. I'm like,
You're
what's
like, yeah,
happening?
taking it.
What's going on right now?
Yeah, TCM won't do that to you unless you cause a big old ruckus and do a big old like, study session or something. Yeah. Don't worry, you guys. If you take it, you're not going to get 15 people in your debrief. Don't stress about that.
You just caused a lot of introverts anxiety.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, won't happen. Um. Alrighty. Well, I've got to head out here in a couple minutes. I am looking forward to this week. This section should not, like these four sections shouldn't be too much work. So I think that again, like I was saying, if y'all didn't get a start with us last week and you want to catch up, you should have time. Um, Upcoming, we've got, of course, we'll now that we've said it out loud, I think it sounds like a great idea to like live do a report and just sort of like build that out. Also, we've got Jason from TCM who's going to be doing a night where he basically walks a web app and takes people through what that actually looks like in real life. which I think is always really interesting to see. And certainly for myself personally, like that's something that I need some help with too. If y'all have any questions or if like you've got any recommendations for how to enrich this a little bit further, let us know. We can find someone between our networks to try to come in and teach us something specific. But the next couple weeks at least will be kind of going through stuff like this, basically sitting down and just sort of either having a short presentation and checking in with people about where y'all are at with the course, if you're doing the course. I think besides that, Sean, you got anything else, man?
No, but before I forget, I got to talk to you about if we can't get the guests that we maybe wanted for APIs. I kind of have an
Mhm.
idea. But we could talk
Okay.
about it. I kind of have an idea. I don't know if it's good or fun or not, but it's kind of a way to get more acquainted with Postman before people actually jump into the course. Because you kind of jump into the course and it's like, hey, we're using Postman, and you're kind of like learning on the fly. So I don't know. We'll see.
Mhm. Yeah, we could do that, especially like at the week that we're going to be doing the API course. I think that's smart.
I don't use it enough at work, but I use it enough to know it better than with the course. So maybe we could do something.
Cool. And then if you guys have ideas for a podcast that Sean and I have been talking about starting for like 18 years, let us know that too. Something getting hacked. I don't know.
I'm with it.
It's a joke. We're not going to start a podcast.
Oh yeah, we were just joking.
Yeah, just joking. We started a podcast. It's about like how much we like to garden or something like that. It's not cyber related.
That's fine.
That'd be great. All right, dude. You got anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. All right, y'all. We'll see you next week, same
Later,
time.
homies. Thanks for dropping in, Ping.
Yeah, thanks for dropping in, Ping. And thanks for all the good stuff, you guys. We appreciate y'all.
Later, dudes.